Everything was perfect. At least that's what I believed. I had a loving wife, a stable career, and a life that seemed to be on track. My wife, Emma, was my world. I thought she loved me just as deeply. For years I believed that. Until everything unraveled. I had a successful career at a large company where my dedication and hard work made me stand out. I was good at my job, exceptionally good. But one day, out of nowhere, I was fired. No reason, no explanation. The very people who once praised me avoided my gaze, and my boss, that arrogant man, was nowhere to be seen. Just like that, my life crumbled. Losing my job triggered a spiral. Financial struggles set in. At first, Emma stood by me. She reassured me that we would get through it together. But over time things changed. Her eyes no longer held warmth, her smile no longer reached me. To her, I had become a failure, a man who had lost his purpose. I didn't realize it then, but that was when our marriage started to break. As our finances dwindled, Emma took a job at the very company that had fired me, the place where my old boss still reigned. I tried to convince myself it was just a cruel coincidence. But what followed was far from coincidence. Emma's career soared. Promotions came one after another. She started coming home with expensive gifts, things we couldn't afford just weeks before. Her work trips became longer, and her phone became her new obsession. She guarded it like a treasure chest, always silent, always hidden. One night the truth surfaced. Emma went to the bathroom, leaving her phone on the table. As I passed by, a message appeared on her screen. One word stood out like a blade to my chest. Boss. Come over again tonight. I miss you. I froze. Something inside me cracked and I stood there staring at the message. But as painful as it was, that was only the beginning. The real betrayal had started long before that text. I spent days in disbelief, convincing myself that I had misunderstood. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe her late nights were really just work. But deep inside I knew the truth. Still I needed proof. And I was determined to get it. One evening, Emma claimed she was going to bed early, exhausted from her work. Hours passed, but she never came home. I called, texted, no response. The voice in my head whispered what I already feared. She's with him. I grabbed my car keys and drove to her office. The parking lot was empty except for one familiar car, his car. The lights in his office were still on. I walked closer, heart pounding in my chest like a war drum. Through the darkened glass I saw them. Emma and him, tangled together in the dim office light. My wife, the woman I had trusted with my heart, in the arms of the man who had destroyed my career. My hands clenched into fists, but I didn't storm in. No, I just stood there watching. Something inside me went cold. The heartbreak I felt died, replaced by something far stronger, rage. I drove home in silence, but my mind was loud, consumed with one thought: revenge. I knew this wasn't just some cheap affair. This had been planned. That man hadn't just stolen my career, now he had taken my wife. But I wasn't going to lash out in anger. No, I needed to be smart. I needed to make them pay. I started digging. I reached out to old colleagues, pulled records, anything that would connect the dots. And what I found made my blood run cold. My firing wasn't just bad luck, it was calculated. Years ago, I had unknowingly stumbled upon my boss's dirty secrets. Money laundering, fraudulent contracts, shady deals buried under piles of paperwork. I hadn't realized it then, but I had asked too many questions. He saw me as a threat, and getting me fired had been his solution. He didn't just take my job, he took everything. And hiring Emma? That wasn't a coincidence either. He had targeted her, lured her in with promotions and luxury. She thought she was special, important. But she had no idea she was just a pawn. And soon that illusion would shatter. One evening, while walking near her office, I overheard a conversation between his assistant and another employee. He's getting bored with her, the assistant whispered. She's done in a few weeks. He's already moved on to someone else. That was the moment I knew karma was already in motion. Emma believed she was powerful, secure in her affair. But soon she'd realize she was nothing more than disposable. For the first time in months I smiled. But that wasn't enough. I needed her to feel the weight of her betrayal, to understand what it meant to lose everything. And for that, I would strike when she least expected it. Emma's fall began slowly, almost too quietly for her to notice. Her boss, the man she thought cared about her, started pulling away. The constant gifts stopped. Her long business trips suddenly vanished. The promotion talks dried up, and whispers followed her wherever she walked. The confident smile she once wore now faded as unease crept in. Then the final blow struck. One morning she walked into her office and found her desk emptied. Her computer access was revoked, her belongings packed neatly into a box. Security escorted her out of the building like a criminal. The powerful man she had trusted, the one who had promised her everything, barely spared her a glance. And inside his office, another woman had already taken her place. I heard about her humiliation later that day, and I knew it was time. But my revenge wasn't just about Emma. It was about the man who had started it all. The man who had sabotaged my career, stolen my wife, and tried to crush me. I had spent weeks gathering proof of his illegal activities, every dirty contract, every fraudulent scheme. With everything documented, I sent it anonymously to the press and the authorities. The fallout was immediate. The company's stock plummeted, lawsuits piled up, and his once loyal allies turned against him. Within days, the man who had thought himself untouchable became a fugitive, fleeing with nothing but a crumbling empire behind him. As for Emma, her life spiraled further. With her career destroyed and her boss gone, she had nothing left. No friends, no power, no money. And then she came to me. Tears streamed down her face as she stood at my door. Her voice shook as she whispered, "I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Please give me another chance." I looked at her, the woman who had once been my everything, now reduced to a broken shadow of herself. Once I might have felt pity. But now there was only cold emptiness. "I'm sorry too," I said flatly. "But I'm happy with someone else now." Right then the door opened. Emma's best friend walked in, her hand slipping comfortably into mine. Emma's face twisted in disbelief. "No, this can't be." But it was real. The very woman who knew Emma's darkest secrets now stood beside me. "You're just the past," I told her coldly. "You no longer exist to me." I closed the door in her face without a second glance. For the first time in her life, Emma understood what it meant to lose everything. She had gambled her marriage, her career, and her pride, and lost it all. Alone, with nowhere to turn, she faced the bitter truth. This was a fall she could never recover from.